Hello and welcome to another video here on my YouTube channel. My name is Vince William. Thanks for coming over and hanging out with me today. Today we're going to talk about a very important yet often neglected topic, having a relationship with yourself. Let's get right to it. Many people understand that usually we understand that we have a relationship with other people, and if you're a believer, with God, right? So it's horizontal and vertical, actually the other way around. And yet we often forget that we have a relationship with ourselves. But have you been taught how to have a relationship with yourself? Have you been equipped in what it means to have a relationship with yourself? What it means to be kind to yourself, means to be patient with yourself? Those things aren't really taught at school. They're not taught in our families oftentimes because nobody really knows how to do that. We don't know how to have a relationship with ourselves that is healthy and not detrimental. In many cases, uh, in my coaching work, I have noticed that so many people struggle with having a healthy, compassionate, good relationship with themselves. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. I think that the reason why many people struggle with this is simply because it's often overlooked and not taught. That is the first thing that we have to understand. It's often overlooked. It's not taught. Um, we're taught to be kind to others and be patient with others and to love others. But when it comes to loving ourselves and being kind and compassionate and loving to and with ourselves, we often shrug our shoulders and say, "What's going on? I don't even know how to do that." Matter of fact, we may even tend to say that we hate ourselves. We don't like ourselves. We don't get along with ourselves very well. And so we put a large emphasis, even in church, we put a large emphasis on having a healthy relationship with God and with others, and maybe not even a healthy, just in general, having a relationship with God and others. And I hope you can't hear that. Somebody's drilling a hole into their wall here next to me. Um, but because in church, many people actually obsess about the relationship with God in a way that is not necessarily healthy. That's why I kind of shrug my shoulders sort of when I said healthy relationship with God. Um, yeah, we're taught to have a relationship with God and with others, but um, not really with ourselves. And so the result of that is very simple. We're often our own worst enemy. Rather than being our first cheerleader and, best friend, we are our own worst enemy. We look into the mirror. We don't like what we see. We hang out with others. We feel anxious. We feel ashamed. We feel guilty. We feel confused because those are signs and symptoms of being at war with yourself, being double-minded, um, not having confidence, and all those things. Just um, you know, show that there is a struggle that you have in relating to yourself with love and grace and compassion. And so the Bible even says that a house divided cannot stand. A house divided cannot stand. And so no wonder you struggle with depression and anxiety and fear if you've never related to yourself in a loving and kind way. Many people don't realize that depression and anxiety and fear and a lack of confidence and just double-mindedness and confusion, all of those things can be a result of being at war with yourself. And so we project our insecurities on God. We think that He is against us. He's not for us. We think He has a problem with us when in reality it is us having a problem with ourselves. But because it's not taught and because we don't talk about that, we don't even get to that point. We don't realize that it's us against us. It's me against myself. And so we never get to the root of this problem. We don't get to the root of it. We think that if somebody struggles, they must have a sin issue. They must have a struggle in their relationship with God, or maybe they haven't forgiven someone. And I'm not saying that those things can't be the case, but what I am saying is that oftentimes we overlook the simple fact that people do struggle in having a healthy and good and loving relationship with themselves. And so we think that God is against us when really we are against ourselves. And there are a lot of root causes for this. There's many, many reasons why you and I might struggle in relating to ourselves kindly and patiently and with love. And there's many, many reasons for that. Our upbringing, our environment, our relationships, growing up, what we have been taught, what we've been taught, and our past in terms of neglect. Have we been neglected? Uh, have we been equipped in what it means to be kind to ourselves? If those things are lacking, if we don't grow up, if many of us we didn't grow up in very loving, kind, and patient families, and of course every family has some drama and some gaslighting or whatever. Um, Although it sounds weird to say that, but of course there's some dysfunction in every family to some degree. But if you grew up in a family that was very, very negative and unhealthy in particular, then you are more prone to take those things into your relationship with yourself. If your parents didn't relate to you with love and patience, then you are definitely going to have a harder time relating to yourself with love and patience. If your parents were very performance driven and they looked at your grades and they made you feel guilty for not being enough, and you always felt like you're never enough, then you're definitely more likely to relate to yourself in that way and feeling like you're never enough. And so understanding that is so, so important, because once you understand the root causes for while you struggle in relating to yourself with love, you are definitely going to be able to pinpoint those and then address them in love, not out of guilt, fear, or shame, but just out of love. And so um, there are many symptoms for that will show me that you struggle in having a good and healthy relationship with yourself. There's many symptoms. If you struggle a lot with anxiety and fear, that means that love needs to have a deeper work there, because love casts out fear. So if we're very afraid, if we are um, struggling with anxiety, that means that there's something going on that probably needs to be addressed. And that doesn't mean you are the problem at all, or that you did something wrong. It just means that maybe there's an emptiness that needs to be filled and addressed. If you struggle with double mindedness, big one. If you're double minded, yeah, this is where OCD comes into play as well. Some of you may know that I have struggled with OCD for years, and it came out of nowhere seemingly, but I struggled with it for years, and to this day I'm overcoming my OCD tendencies and healing from them, and just learning to overcome on a day-to-day basis, because OCD isn't necessarily something that you just overcome, that you just get over, but it's a journey, and we heal from it, we overcome it on a daily basis by facing our obsessive compulsive tendencies. But if you struggle with double-mindedness and you're very confused often, and you struggle with having like a mind that's filled with thoughts, and there's a lot of thoughts going on at the same time, and you struggle with like, which path should I take, and what's going to happen if I do this, what's going to happen if I do that, if I don't do that, what are they going to think about me, what's their opinion on this? If you are indecisive and you struggle with making decisions, if you struggle to make decisions, and being firm, and just being single-minded, and moving forward and going after whatever it is that's before you, if you struggle with those things, then that may be because you have a lack of confidence, and ultimately you don't love yourself the way God loves you. And so it feeds a lot of avoidance um, tendencies, where we just avoid what's going on in our lives because we don't feel like we're strong enough to face what we're going through, and facing those issues that are deeper and just underlying. And so it feeds passivity. We're passive about stuff because we're insecure. We don't know what to do, and so we're just passive. We tap out. Also, a big one that I have struggled with so much, and I've struggled with all of these, but a big one for me was also people pleasing. Just when you are at war with yourself and you don't trust yourself, that's a big one. And you just struggle with being yourself and being in your own flesh, so to say, your own body, in your own mind. When you tend to just go and do whatever other people want from you. You just go after what everybody else says, and you do what they want you to do, because there is a sense of safety in that. When you know that you please others and you do what they want you to do, there's a sense of, all right, I'm safe, I'm good, nobody's going to say anything, I'm going to be all right. But that pattern actually becomes more and more detrimental over time, because now, a couple of years down the road, you are not even your own man. You just do whatever everybody else says. And this is very big in the church too, where people just fear rejection. They're afraid of getting rejected by their peers, by their brothers and sisters, and so they just do whatever they think is right. And it feeds a lot of double-mindedness and confusion and avoidance and passivity, because you're not able to make a decision for yourself. So people pleasing is a big one. Um, you look for Another one is looking for identity and approval and validation in all the wrong places. You know, um, pardon, um, my camera only has 10% battery left, so I'm gonna have to wrap this up soon. But another one is just looking for identity and approval and affirmation and validation in all the wrong places, in your performance, and how people perceive you and their opinions about you, in your achievements and performance. And again, this can manifest in so many ways. It can manifest in workaholism and people pleasing in your business, at your job. It can feed into doing whatever other people want you to do at church, and just excessive serving that does not even come from following the spirit, but it comes from doing what other people want you to do, because you'll feel guilty if you don't, and you'll be afraid. You are afraid of what they're going to say if you don't do what they ask you to do. And so you're looking for identity in other people, and it gets, your identity is wrapped up in so many things, and maybe even people and places, that again, it feeds double-mindedness. You're not your own man. You don't understand what to do. And so what this also does is it produces a lot of striving. Now when we are deeply entangled in people's opinions and what they think and say about us, and people pleasing mechanisms and tendencies, what it does now is we strive for their approval. We strive to achieve better results, whether it's evangelism or praying or Bible reading. We may strive for God's approval when in reality we already have it. And so we're trying to live from an empty tank. We're trying to get God's approval when in reality He has already given us His approval. And so there's just so much going on. When you start with perfectionism, what many people don't realize is that perfectionism is actually can be a very, very, very unhealthy tendency. And the root for perfectionism can actually lie in your childhood, in your upbringing, when you felt like you were never enough. So now you're trying to achieve perfection in whatever you're doing, whether it's at your job, in your business, in your relationships. You're afraid of making mistakes. You're afraid to step out and fail and learn. And so again, it feeds the avoidance and passivity, because now you're just paralyzed. You feel like you don't know what to do. And you just avoid everything altogether. You avoid moving out of your comfort zone and taking steps. But the root is not being your own man, not loving yourself, being double-minded, being divided. A house divided can't stand. And so you're trying to do all of these things, but you can't, because you are paralyzed, because you are not standing. You can't stand if you are divided against yourself. And so you have no trust and confidence in yourself whatsoever. It's difficult to make decisions, which then it feeds into avoidance, right? It's difficult to make decisions, so you avoid making decisions, which then you feel shame for avoiding those decisions, because you feel like I should make a decision and I can't, and so you're stuck, and then you feel ashamed for being stuck and not making any decisions. And then there's people who are like, you got to do something, but you're like, I don't know what to do. And it can feed a lot of shame. And so you feel very insecure, and And all of that, really what it comes down to not knowing and understanding your identity as a believer, as a child of God, as a follower of Jesus Christ. And really the key word here is just sonship, knowing and understanding that you're a son of God, and whether you're male or female, it applies to you. You're a son of God. You're a daughter of God, although the Bible only calls us sons of God. So whether you're male or female, you're a son of God, just like male and female are the bride of Christ. You're a son of God, and that's your identity. So when you don't understand your identity as a loved, welcome child of God, when you don't understand that you have access to your Father, not based on your performance, not based on your achievements, but simply based on your status as an adopted child of God, if you don't understand that, all of these symptoms are going to pop up eventually. At least they have in my life, and I see it all around me. People struggle with depression and anxiety, with double-mindedness. They struggle with indecisiveness, and it comes down to the upbringing. It goes down to where did we grow up? How did we grow up? Was there a lot of neglect? Was there a lack of equipping and teaching on identity and on who you are as a child of God and what it means to walk as as one? And so, um, sort of the first step to loving yourself is understanding what it means to love yourself and understanding that you can um, you can take steps, practical steps every single day to love yourself, to be patient with yourself, to be kind to yourself. Because God's attitude towards us is loving, it's patient, it's kind. God is love, love is patient and kind. So he's always loving and kind to us. He's patient. And so that's where many people struggle. We know it in our minds. We know God is love. And when somebody asks us, so do you feel do you know God loves you? And we're like, yeah, absolutely. I know God loves me, but we don't connect to it in our hearts. We don't know how to connect to it in our hearts. And so one of the first steps is understanding that God's attitude towards us is love. And so what we now need to do is we need to connect to that. We need to apply it to ourselves. Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. But many people focus on loving other people, but they don't really know how to love themselves. And so what eventually comes around is burnout. We are burned out because we're trying to give from an empty tank. We're trying to love people, although we don't even do it authentically because we don't connect to that love for ourselves. And so we get tired and exhausted, depressed. We may struggle with burnout, and we may even feel like quitting and throwing it all away. And because we look around and we see people in the world feeling better because they are not so double-minded. They go to the gym, they feel good about themselves. They may have a healthy lifestyle pattern, but if you struggle with OCD, you may feel like those things are not for you. You're not allowed to even engage in those things. And so I'll have to wrap it up here because my camera is slowly dying. But really, what it comes down to is getting to know your identity and taking practical steps every single day to love yourself more. And that's what I want to encourage you to start doing. Look for ways how to love yourself on a daily basis and understand your identity as a child of God. That is a topic worth studying very much because everything flows out of it. Before Jesus started his ministry, there was a voice from above saying, "This is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased." So his identity was settled as a beloved son of God, as the beloved son of God, but it was not based on his ministry or on all the healings that he did, on all the miracles and the things he did, on his works, but it was based on who he is as the Son of God. And so that's where I'm going to stop now. We need to take a deeper look. I want to encourage us to take a deeper look at who we are as children of God. And if you are wanting to do that, and if you're looking forward to learning more about all of what what I talked about today, please feel free to subscribe to my channel because this is only the beginning, and we're going to go deeper and deeper, if God permits and allows, and it's going to be great. So subscribe for more, like this video, and share it with a friend if you found it helpful and encouraging. And I'll see you in the next one.